Well, what is Collingwood's best 23 for the final series? Let's get straight into the back six. My locks immediately are Isaac Quaynor, who isn't having the same season that he did last season, but that's okay. He plays a role. Darcy Moore, who we know is certainly not playing as well as he did last year, but he's another player who is so important, so integral to our team going back to back that we can't afford having him out. And I don't think having him forward, we'll talk about that when we get to the forward six, I don't think it's worth trialing that or re-experimenting with that in 2024. And I know people in the comment section have entertained that idea and it sounds enticing and enthralling, but it's just not the time. He's going to have to find his form and play himself into form over the next 6 to 8 weeks leading into that final series and find some All-Australian form once again. His intercepting partner will be Jeremy Howe in the backline, I think. Obviously, he has that trick up his sleeve to swing forward if needed at some point on a needs basis, but this is assuming that the team I put out here and now is how the team will look throughout the course of the final series. So I think Jeremy Howe's best position right now is in the back six, playing as that second or third key tall. And he will be the third key tall because Billy Frampton will be my number 2. And Billy Frampton is going to enable Darcy Moore to have a great second half to the year. He's had his break, he's read his books, Mr. Darcy Moore while he was on his bye. So Billy Frampton helps alleviate Darcy Moore, and we never see Billy Frampton in the forward line again, hopefully. The other clear lock in the half-back position is Braden Maynard. He's been amazing. His 1%ers are unrivaled. He does well with the ball. He has intercept marking ability if needed. And then along with Bruzzy on the half-back flank, this one's going to be conflicting. It's Jack Crisp for now. I'll explain that in a moment. Let's explain it now. We're up to Jack Crisp. But with Jack Crisp, right, we've got our troopers back. We've got our JDGs. We've got our Scott Pendleburys. We've got our Nick Dacos's. And we're hoping we have certain players that will roll through the midfield, which will allow someone like Jack Crisp to rotate through the half-back flank and help us with our ball movement and be that 1-2 punch with a John Noble moving out from the defensive half. So that's the rationale there. I know he's having almost an All-Australian season in the middle. I'm not saying he's not going to play in the middle. I'm just saying he starts in the half-back flank and rotates through the middle with all the depth that we do have in the midfield with our top caliber midfielders. On one wing, we have a Josh Dacos, our more attacking winger. And on the other wing, I've got Harvey Harrison as it stands. Both have been able to hit the scoreboard. Harvey Harrison's averaging a goal a game this year. The ball is like a magnet for Dacos right now. And in the centre position, I've got Scott Pendlebury. That one is another lock for me, seeing as Pendles has shown that he's worth his weight in gold. So I could not have him anywhere else but in the middle and in the starting team for Collingwood going into the final series. Moving into the forward six, I've got Lockie Schultz, Patrick Lipinski as the high half forward flankers, with Mychek as that centre half forward, that crash and bash. We know what he does best. He's courageous, brave, whatever you want to call it, everything else in between and more for Brody Mychek. He occupies that position very well. Those are my front 3 in that forward line. And then you've got Bobby Hill and Mick Stay, Jamie Elliott playing a bit deeper. I know Lockie Schultz has been playing deeper, but I think when a Jamie Elliott comes in, the Joe Richards comes in, I think he's going to have to play a bit higher. As I think Jamie Elliott in particular plays that small to medium-sized forward role as a deeper forward a bit better than what Lockie Schultz can, even though Lockie Schultz has been playing exceptionally well as that deeper small forward. And then Mick Stay is another lock if he's fit and healthy and ready to go coming back from his ACL. We've seen what he could do in the final series last year, so be silly of us not to entertain and welcome back Mick Stay with open arms going into that final series. Our main ruckman will be Darcy Cameron, and then followers will be Nick Dacos and Jordan De Goey. So you see that, Nick Dacos, Jordan De Goey, Scott Pendlebury, Darcy Cameron is your ruckman. That's why I think there's room for Jack Crisp to play off the half-back flank. So that talks to my point there more. Josh Dacos maybe at some point if all else fails. I think there's an opportunity or a realistic idea that maybe Josh Dacos could play off the half-back flank. He's clean, doesn't fumble, good ball use, and does everything that you could probably ask for off half-back flank. I mean, if we've tried still side bottom, as a half-back flanker, then why can't we with Josh Dacos? Yes, you lose a bit off the wing, but I think you got Harvey Harrison, right? And then Lipinski, who I've got the high half-forward role at the moment. On the bench, you've got Will Hoskin-Elliott and John Noble. So I think there is room to accommodate that move for Josh Dacos to move in to the half-back flank position. So as we've just noted, John Noble and Will Hoskin-Elliott on the bench, along with Nathan Kruger, who has been outstanding since his return from his injury woes over the course of the last couple of years. He's provided us with great pressure at ground level, a really good aerial presence, and he's kicking goals. So he's ticking all the boxes to warrant a position there. So he gets a spot on the bench along with Tom Mitchell, and further speaks to that Jack Crisp, I guess, decision with the halfback flank move. So we've got plenty of midfielders that can rotate and play in different positions. So we need to be, I guess, malleable and be able to have different looks in the midfield and everywhere across the ground. We've trialled that the first half of the year with so many different position changes because of the injuries that we've had to compensate for. So that's one of the silver linings in these injuries that we've had to manage through in the first half of the year. And to be in the top 5 at this point of the season with the adversities we've faced is a testament to the club, to the coaches, to the players, the physios, whatever you want. Throw them all in there. They've all, I guess, overperformed in the context of the season. My sub is Joe Richards. Obviously, he's shown a lot, but he got injured, and I can't put him on the field in lieu of Jamie Elliott, Bobby Hill, Lockie Schultz. I can't do that. And then I really want my Lipinski there. I want my Myercheck and McStay there in that forward line. And even with those 4 players on the bench, I couldn't justify putting Joe Richards in there over one of those 4 being Noble, Kruger, Tom Mitchell, Hoskin, Elliott. I think I just wanted to leave that for now. I'm happy with that. And Richards gives us a bit of versatility. Could he play a wing? He can play higher up the ground. He's collected 20 odd disposals, playing as a forward, high half forward, whatever you want to call him. I think there's a little bit of wriggle room. If not Richards, then maybe we go a Noble. But I think I really want Noble to be in that rotation as that halfback flanker. All right, let's address some elephants in the room as to which players I have not selected for the best 23 going into the season, going into the final series. I think the most glaringly obvious one is still side bottom. I couldn't fit him in over Harvey Harrison, Josh Dacos, Lipinski, Will Hoskin-Elliott. I guess those are the players he's sort of up against, playing that wing position. Yes, he had an amazing game against North Melbourne as an inside midfielder, but I just think with all the mids we already have that are hopefully available come final series, I just don't think I can fit him in. So his next best position is on the wing. And those players who I've already picked over Sidey in that position, I think they're just having too good of a season to have Sidey in there. He's been trialled as a half-back flanker. That didn't work. I think someone else's turn is next. I mean, they tried TJ. Didn't work out. TJ's been dropped. So someone else goes in. And I can't put him in the forward line. I can't put him in over Lockie Schultz or Bobby Hill, Jamie Elliott. We lose too much pressure. And I'm not willing to give up our tools in Myercheck, McStay, Kruger and DC. We're going to need them. We're going to need them to help pinch hit Darcy in the ruck, because another out that I haven't selected is Mason Cox. There's been a lot of chatter in the comment section. People still think Mason Cox is likely to return to the team because of the, I guess, versatility he offers in the ruck. But I think Kruger, McStay can help out around the grounds with Darcy Cameron and throw Kruger into the middle if needed, the centre bounces. It's not ideal, but I think we get so much more with Nathan Kruger outside of the ruck relative to Mason Cox. Mason Cox isn't having the greatest of seasons compared to what he's done in the past. Yes, he's done so much in the final series, so his finals proven and finals tested. Nathan Kruger is not, so I see that argument. But that's, guys, there's 23 players that I've had to pick in a reigning premiership season. How do you pick? You're gonna miss players that should be in your team because it's a premiership club. So it's not going to be easy. I want to see your, I guess, predictions and your preferences in the comment section, but that's where I've gone with that. The other omission is Bo McCreary. We know his pressure is unbelievable. He shut down LDU. He had 13 tackles a few weeks ago. He does everything right from a defensive end, but he lacks with the ball and having offensive scoreboard impact. He doesn't have that. So if I've got Lachie Schultz in there and Jamie Elliott, who both provide great ground pressure, even Bobby Hill applies pressure. Myercheck is a big Lachie Schultz, so he gets pressure, or he applies pressure. Nathan Kruger's applied 2.5 tackles in his last 2 games on average, so that's if he can uphold that he would be the best tackling forward in the league, which is not going to happen. But if he can average 1 tackle inside 50 per game, then I think it makes up for what we give up by not having Bo McCreary in the team. And with Joe Richards, his emergence, his ascendancy, Will Hoskin-Elliott's playing so well. Like I said, Lachie Schultz has bounced back out of nowhere as far as what he could do offensively. We were questioning that, and he's now averaging a goal and a half a game, which is what he was doing at Fremantle. You're obviously not going to drop Bobby Hill, Mr. Norm Smith. So Bo McCreary misses for me, unfortunately. I hate to say it. Oleg Markov, who is currently in the team for the Gold Coast game, he's someone else who does miss. Would he be an emergency in my team? Sure. He could provide some run off the half-back flank, but his ball use has never been the best, and he doesn't find it enough to be a trustful half-back flanker who can drive the ball forward. So we're going to ask more from Jack Crisp. We're going to ask more from Braden Maynard. We're going to ask Darcy Moore to intercept and rebound and use the ball well. Jeremy Howell as well. He's a great kick on both sides of the body. So these are players, Isaac Quaynor, these are players who are all going to have to lift in the second half of the year to provide a good ball movement if we've got players like Markov out and even Nick Dacos, who was in the half-back flank position last year for the most part. So we're going to have to really work on that in the next half of this current season. Lachie Sullivan is a tough miss. I opted for Tom Mitchell. I think Tom Mitchell has also been finals proven, grand finals proven, and played really well, was one of our best players. He's been one of our best players in a couple games this year, Brisbane and Hawthorn most notably, when we needed those wins the most. So that's why I'm going for Tom Mitchell over Lachie Sullivan. Obviously, Sullivan's still in the team right now while Tom Mitchell is out. So there is an opportunity for Lachie Sullivan to lift 20, 30, 40%, to really have Fly McRae questioning whether he keeps Mitchell out for the final series and entrust Lachie Sullivan with the keys to that inside contested midfield ball position role for the team and feeding it out to your Scott Pendlebury's, your De Goey's and your Nick Dacos's in the final series. There's an opportunity there for him. However, I just think in the end, if Tom Mitchell gets right, I think it'll be hard to go past him unless Lachie Sullivan goes on and averages 20 touches and kicks a goal and averages 10 contested possessions until the end of the season from here on out. Another tough one is Reef McInnes, who is out for the game against Gold Coast as well. A little bit stiff. He's averaging close to 2 goals a game. I think he does really well in that sub position. He plays it very well, but I just could not fit him in with the amount of tools we already have in our forward line. I just couldn't do it. Charlie Dean is another tough one. Another player who is omitted from this weekend's game against Gold Coast. If Jeremy Howe and Billy Frampton and Darcy Moore are playing their best footy, unfortunately there's no room in that backline. We'll be too tall. You can't have Jeremy Howe, Darcy Moore, Billy Frampton, Braden Maynard, and you can't have Charlie Dean there, especially if Isaac Quaynor can play a bit taller. And I think with Charlie Dean out, Isaac Quaynor steps up and plays taller than what he usually is. He always plays taller. We have to remember IQ was in the extended All-Australian squad last year, so he has that ability to play as a third key tall given at times. The other notable mention or players worth noting just for a moment, you've got Finlay McRae, who has tried his hardest in the first half of the year. He's had one good game against West Coast, one of the worst sides in the comp, but hasn't been able to capitalise on his preseason form. Hasn't at least been able to transfer what we saw in preseason into AFL level. Does he ever get to the heights where he can establish himself as a permanent AFL player? I don't know. I don't see it happening this year. Do I see it happening next year? I'm not too sure. I just think he lacks that burst out of the contest and to compose himself and get a good disposal on foot or by foot for Finn. I feel like when he gets the ball, he just smacks it on the boot, and wherever it goes, it goes. It ends up being a rebound 50 or an intercept mark, and it goes the other way. So what Finlay McRae is able to do is win the ball in the contest, but when he wins it, if he's kicking it, typically just goes back to the opposition, which defeats the purpose of winning that ball in the contest in the first place. Rebound 50s and intercept marks and allowing teams to go from there is really dangerous. Ash Johnson was one of the most disappointing failures in the first half of the season. Something drastic would need to happen for AJ to find himself back in the team this year, especially with the option for Jordan De Goey to play more of a role in the forward line if needed, for whatever reason that is, if needed. We saw what he did against Adelaide, had 26 disposals, rolled into some stoppages and didn't attend a single centre bounce, kicked those 2 goals, and obviously one of those goals being the clutch winning goal late in that game. So JDG provides that option that we were hoping for in Ash Johnson in the preseason. Another player who looked like he was ready to tear the league apart. It didn't happen. Why that is, it has to be up here. It has to be effort. I'm not a coach, but that's what I see. Something's just lacking, inherently lacking in AJ that will rue his opportunity to establish himself as an AFL player at Collingwood. So, finally, let me just read this out again. So, Isaac Quaynor, Darcy Moore, Jeremy Howe, Braden Maynard, Billy Frampton, Jack Crisp in the back 6. So, I'm pretty happy with that. And then we've got Josh Dacos on the wing, Scott Pendlebury in the centre, Harvey Harrison on the other wing, Lockie Schultz, Myercheck, Lipinski as our centre half forward flankers, and then Bobby Hill in the pocket, Elliott in the other pocket, McStay as our full forward, and our ruckman being DC, who's going to have a massive load to where the responsibility is going to be really heavy on Darcy Cameron, but I believe he can overcome that workload and become an even greater ruckman by the time the season is all said and done. Nick Dacos in the guts from the get-go, along with Jordan De Goey. And that split for Jordan De Goey, I think, will be 80-20 in the favour of midfield in the final series. Those are the games we need Jordan De Goey with. And I think after this year, guys, after seeing this year, I think I'm finally willing to accept that Jordan De Goey is never going to be that player who is consistent throughout the year where he's collecting 30 and kicking 1. He's always going to be 23 and 2. And in the final series, he lifts his game by 20-30% and gets your 30 touches and kicks that goal. I'm happy with that. I'm so comfortable with that. And I think we need to come to accept that he's not going to be that Nick Dacos, that Pendlebury who's just consistent, the Jack Crisps. It's fine. You need these players to almost like reserve their energy and their power for the final series, which is what we have seen from De Goey consistently in every final series that Collingwood has been a part of. Lastly, as I mentioned, on the bench, John Noble, Nathan Kruger, Tom Mitchell, Will Hoskin-Elliott, who's been unbelievable, is Mr. Fix-It, plays everywhere, having probably his best season since 2019, and then the sub, Joe Richards. The players that miss, Sidebottom, Sullivan, Markov, McRae, Cox, AJ, Bo, Reef, and Charlie Dean. So, have at it, guys. Get in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Go Pies.